Imagine this. You are lying in the snow, bleeding out, while your daughter, only 3 days old, grows quiet in your arms. Your husband's family has just shoved you down a flight of stone stairs during a blizzard. They spat words at you like garbage, trash, a nobody. But they had no idea that in just 4 hours, you were set to inherit $2.3 billion, and you would make every last one of them regret it. My name is Emma Harrington, and the story you are about to hear is not a work of fiction. This is the true account of how I went from dying in the snow to bringing down an entire dynasty. It is the story of how a family who believed they were untouchable learned the most painful lesson of their lives. Never underestimate the woman you decide to throw away. For 3 years, they humiliated me. They broadcasted my most vulnerable moments to 500,000 followers and even tried to take my baby using a corrupt legal system. They believed their wealth and influence made them gods. They were mistaken, because when I stepped into that boardroom 8 weeks later, with platinum blonde hair, a $1 billion empire at my back, and 4 million people tuned in live, the look on their faces when they figured out who I truly was, well, that moment alone was priceless. But this is what made it legendary. They had all signed a consent form without bothering to read it, the same way they had always forced me to. Karma really does have a beautiful sense of humor. Stick with me to the very end, because the twist in the courtroom, the FBI showing up, and what ultimately happened to each of them, you will not believe how this story concludes. And if anyone has ever made you feel like you are worthless, if you have ever been cast aside, then this story is for you. Before we dive in, please do me a quick favor. If you believe in justice, hit that like button right now. Leave a comment telling me what you would have done if you were in my shoes, and please subscribe. Because the story I have for you next week is even more unbelievable than this one. Trust me, you are not going to want to miss it. But before we dive into this incredible journey, I want you to know something important. This story is not just about revenge. It is about discovering your own power when everyone around you tries to convince you that you have none. It is about the moment when a woman who was thrown away like garbage decided to build herself into someone unbreakable. If you have ever been made to feel worthless, if you have ever been told you are not enough, this story will show you that pain does not have to destroy you. Sometimes it can forge you into something stronger than you ever imagined. Now, allow me to take you back to the very beginning. It was February 14th, Valentine's Day. The day my entire world fell apart. They dragged me across the cold marble floors with my 3-day-old baby screaming in my arms, and then they tossed us down stone steps, straight into a raging blizzard. What they didn't realize was that in 4 hours, I would come into a $2.3 billion inheritance, and I was preparing to make them all pay for what they had done. I am Emma Harrington, and this is the story of how I went from bleeding out in a snowbank to completely destroying a family dynasty. You need to stay until the end, because the footage of them realizing who I was in that boardroom went viral and was the final nail in their coffin. You do not want to miss the moment 4 million people watch them get on their knees and beg. Let me transport you back to where this nightmare started. 3 days before that, I was in a hospital bed at Mercy General. My body was still trying to heal from an emergency C-section. The pain was excruciating, a searing line across my stomach that made every breath an ordeal. But no amount of physical pain could compare to the profound emptiness I felt inside. My husband, Michael, had not come to see me in 52 hours, not a single time. I had been keeping track. The nurses kept shooting me looks full of pity, their whispers echoing in the hall when they thought I was out of earshot. I kept trying to convince myself he was just swamped with work and that he would be there soon. God, I was so incredibly naive. It was February 14th, Valentine's Day, and the cruel irony was not lost on me. My baby, Grace, was resting in the bassinet next to my bed, her tiny face tinged with the yellow of jaundice. The doctor assured me it was normal and nothing to be alarmed about, but every time I looked down at her, a knot of fear tightened in my chest. She was so tiny, so delicate, so absolutely perfect. And her own father had not even bothered to come meet her. I was still tethered to IV drips in both of my arms and was still using a catheter. Even with the Percocet, they gave me every 4 hours. The pain from the incision was a steady 7 out of 10. Every little movement was pure agony. Sometime around 11 at night, my best friend Rebecca quietly came into the room. She was an ICU nurse on the floor below and had been popping in to see me on her breaks. "Emma, honey," Rebecca said, her voice strained with an emotion I could not quite place. She looked genuinely worried, not just offering sympathy. "I have to show you something. Please try not to freak out, but you have to see this before you hear it from someone else." She passed me her phone. The Instagram app was already open. I just stared at the screen, and in that sterile hospital bed, my whole world shattered into a million tiny pieces. It was Michael's account. There was a picture of him with another woman. She was stunning, radiant, and also very obviously pregnant. Her hand was resting on her belly in that classic pose of an expecting mother. They were at Le Bernardin, a 5-star restaurant I could only dream of, a place Michael had certainly never taken me. The caption underneath read, "With my real family, finally being honest, new beginnings, and blessed with the truth." It was posted 6 hours ago. It already had 47,000 likes. The comments were a chaotic mix of congratulations and utter confusion. "Wait, aren't you married?" one person asked. "Who is the other woman?" Another person demanded. But the majority of the comments were just heart emojis and people celebrating his truth. I felt as if someone had plunged their hand into my chest and squeezed my heart until it burst. "Emma," Rebecca said gently, "it gets worse. He has been telling people around the hospital that you trapped him, that he is finally free to be with the woman he truly loves." 3 years. We had been married for 3 years. 3 years I had spent trying so desperately to be good enough for him, for his family, and for the world they lived in. 3 years of my love and my devotion, and the entire time, he had someone else. My phone started buzzing on the nightstand. It was an incoming call from a number I did not recognize. I was too heartbroken to even think about answering, too shattered to speak. I let it go straight to voicemail, hardly noticing that the caller ID had briefly shown the name W. Harrington, private. I would never find out that my grandfather had been calling me at 11:47 that night to set up our very first meeting. I would never realize just how close I had come to being rescued. Just then, Dr. Morrison walked into the room, holding my discharge papers. She was the OB-GYN who had delivered Grace, a kind woman in her 50s with gentle hands and a look of deep concern in her eyes. "Mrs. Sterling," she began cautiously, "I need to talk with you about something. The hospital's social services department has flagged some concerning dynamics. Your husband has not visited, and there has been some—" The door was thrown open with a loud bang. Victoria Sterling, my mother-in-law, was the first to storm in. She had on a designer coat that likely cost more than my car, with a Hermes bag hanging from her arm and a cold rage burning in her eyes. Right behind her was Jonathan, Michael's father, dressed in a pricey suit that just screamed old money and influence. Then came Madison, Michael's sister, who already had her phone out and was recording. And last was Alexis, the woman from the Instagram picture. She wore a smug grin on her face, with one hand protectively on her pregnant stomach, as if she were staking her claim. Dr. Morrison took a step forward. I am sorry, but visiting hours are over, and Mrs. Victoria silenced her with a dismissive wave of her hand. We are family. We have every right to be in here. She shoved a folder into Dr. Morrison's hands. These are documents from Child Protective Services. My daughter-in-law is mentally unstable and an unfit mother. We are here to protect our granddaughter. I stared at them, my mind unable to grasp what was unfolding. Child Protective Services documents? What was happening? The folder was filled with forged papers that claimed I was suffering from postpartum psychosis, including a fake psychiatric evaluation signed by Dr. Gerald Rothman, the Sterling family's personal psychiatrist. It recommended my parental rights be temporarily removed until a full evaluation could be done. Dr. Morrison's hands were shaking as she read through the documents. I could see the conflict in her eyes, knowing something was deeply wrong, but feeling powerless against the family. The Sterling's recent donation to the hospital's East Wing gave them immense power here. Victoria moved to my bedside. Her voice was like poison. You have ruined my son's life for far too long. This pathetic little act of yours ends tonight. I was weak, disoriented, and still feeling the effects of the pain medication. What are you talking about? I just gave birth to his baby. Alexis let out a laugh, a truly cruel sound. She came closer and pulled a set of papers out of her purse. That baby is not even his. We had a DNA test done. She held out a fake lab report for me to see. It read, probability of paternity, 0%. My mind was spinning. When could this have happened? How? I had been in the hospital this whole time. It was completely impossible. You cannot just test a newborn's DNA without the mother's permission. But there they were, with official-looking documents. At that moment, Madison started a live stream on Instagram. I could see my own reflection on her phone screen, looking pale and utterly broken in my hospital gown. Hey guys, Madison's voice was cheerful and vicious. You all wanted to know the truth about my brother's gold-digging wife? Well, here it is, coming to you live from the hospital where she is trying to trap him with a baby that doesn't even belong to him. I watched in absolute horror as the comments started pouring in. Oh my God, is this for real? She looks so pathetic. Your brother deserves so much better. 500,000 of their followers were watching me in my most vulnerable state. Victoria leaned down close to my face. Let me tell you what you really are, Emma. You are a joke. You were a bet my son and his college buddies made for $100,000 to see if he could marry the poorest girl at the university and actually tolerate it for 3 years. She took out her own phone and played a video. It was Michael, drunk at his bachelor party 4 years ago, laughing with a group of 7 friends. Dude, 3 years with some trailer trash for 100 grand? That is easy money. I will just close my eyes and picture someone else when we... The sound of their laughter filled the room. So much laughter. My entire world completely collapsed around me. 3 years. Every time he said, I love you, every anniversary we celebrated, every single moment I had tried so hard to fit into his world and be worthy of the Sterling name, it was all just a joke. Madison's eyes landed on my wrist, on the simple silver chain bracelet with a tiny charm that had belonged to my mother. It was the only thing I had left of her. Oh, what is this? Madison sneered. Your precious little family heirloom? She reached out to snatch it off my wrist. I yanked my arm back, and a sharp pain shot through my abdomen. Don't. That is all I have left of my mother. Victoria then slapped me, hard, across the face. The sharp crack of the slap echoed through the quiet hospital room. Dr. Morrison choked out the words, That is assault. I am calling security. Jonathan's voice was pure ice, We are the security. This is Harrington Memorial Hospital. My family funded the entire East Wing. You can call anyone you like. The incredible irony was that the entire hospital was named after my own grandfather. They were threatening me inside my family's legacy. Just then, Rebecca rushed into the room, demanding, "What on earth is happening in here?" When the hospital's security team showed up, they were visibly conflicted. Jonathan's financial contributions made him a powerful figure, leaving them unsure of how to proceed. Victoria shoved a stack of divorce papers into my chest. "Sign these this instant, or Child Protective Services will take your daughter tomorrow. We already have doctors prepared to testify that you are mentally unstable. You will lose her forever." I was disoriented from pain medication, every movement a fresh wave of agony from my C-section. The hospital room seemed to tilt around me. "Please," I pleaded, my voice breaking, "just do not take my baby from me." My hand was trembling so much that I could hardly grip the pen, but I signed the papers. Alexis leaned close, her hot breath on my skin as she hissed, "Did you honestly believe a person like you could ever keep a sterling child? You are nothing. You will always be nothing." Victoria's smile was chilling and victorious. "You have been discharged. Be at the mansion tomorrow to pick up your garbage. After that, you will disappear from our lives." And then they were gone. I completely fell apart, my body racked with sobs. Rebecca tried to comfort me, saying, "We have to call the police. This is illegal coercion and harassment." "No," I whispered back. "They have an army of lawyers and endless money. I have absolutely nothing. I only want my baby to be safe." That is when Dr. Morrison quietly took out her personal phone. I had not noticed she was recording the entire exchange. I was unaware that she was a mandated reporter who took that responsibility very seriously. "I am documenting all of this," she stated calmly. "What they are doing is abuse." I was too devastated to even process her words. It makes no difference, I thought. People like them always get their way. But her recording would end up making all the difference in the world. I just did not know it at the time. The following morning, on February 15th, I hailed an Uber to the Sterling family estate in Greenwich, Connecticut. Michael had maintained complete control over our finances, so I could not even afford a car of my own. My baby, Grace, was secured in a hospital-issued car seat, covered by a single, thin blanket. She looked so tiny and fragile, only 3 days into the world, and her life was already a complete disaster. The mansion rose up before us, a sprawling Georgian structure that announced its old money from every stone and window pane. In the 3 years I lived there, it never once felt like my home. My keys still worked when I let myself in through the heavy front doors. The household staff, whom I had once considered friends, now refused to meet my gaze. A few of them even had smirks on their faces. I discovered my possessions had been stuffed into black garbage bags and tossed onto the driveway. My hand trembled as I made my way to my old room, which was never the master suite. Michael and I had never shared a bed. I was always relegated to the servants' quarters in the back of the house, a constant reminder that I was not truly part of the family. Inside, I found total destruction. My clothing was drenched from being thrown in the outdoor fountain. My books were ripped to shreds, their pages littering the floor. The precious photographs of my mother had been incinerated in the downstairs fireplace. I could still smell the smoke. Her jewelry was missing. I found Madison in the master suite, wearing it. My mother's pearl necklace, the single most important thing I owned. "Oh, this old thing?" Madison scoffed, snapping a selfie. "It looks much better on me, don't you think?" Finders keepers. Walking through that mansion one last time, a flood of painful memories washed over me. The first Thanksgiving, Victoria had forced me to serve dinner to the guests as the family dined. When I attempted to take a seat, she had said, The staff does not sit with the family, dear. Michael remained silent. At a charity event the second year, I had to wear a borrowed gown because I had no money. Victoria warned me not to cause a scene and to stay out of sight. Do not speak to anyone of importance. Jonathan had me working the coat check room while Madison mingled in expensive designer clothes. During our third Christmas, the Sterlings exchanged gifts worth thousands of dollars. Michael's present to me was a new vacuum cleaner. The whole family laughed. Victoria remarked, "Well, at least now you can be useful." It was 3 years of calculated, soul-crushing humiliation. I gathered the few things that were not destroyed into a single bag. Grace started to cry, needing a diaper change and a feeding, but there was nowhere for me to care for her. Just as I was about to leave, Victoria's voice crackled over the intercom system. "Emma, darling, please come to the main hall immediately. We are all waiting for you." A knot of dread formed in my stomach. The main entrance hall was a cavernous space with marble floors I had often been made to polish and a crystal chandelier that cost more than a family's yearly income. The entire Sterling clan was there, arranged like a tribunal. Victoria was at the center, a queen presiding over her court, with Jonathan, the king, at her side. Madison was perched on the staircase, phone already out and recording. Michael leaned against a far wall, unable to look at me, and Alexis was hanging on Michael's arm, a smirk plastered on her face. 4 imposing security guards I did not recognize stood by, clearly hired muscle. Victoria's voice was as cold as the marble floor. "Before you vanish and we erase any memory of your existence, you will get on your knees and apologize. Apologize for wasting 3 years of our lives and for attempting to trap my son with your illegitimate child." I clutched Grace tightly. "No," I said. "I am leaving. Just let me go." Jonathan's threat was delivered in a low, dangerous tone. "You will kneel, or we will personally inform every homeless shelter in this state that you are an unstable child abuser. Child Protective Services will never stop looking for you." "I am not kneeling," I repeated. Victoria gave a slight nod to the guards. It all happened in a blur. One guard seized my arms. I screamed, "Please, I am holding my baby. Please do not hurt her." Another guard brutally tore Grace from my grasp. The pain was instant and blinding. The force of the struggle ripped my C-section stitches. I felt a sudden warmth soak my clothes. It was blood. Grace let out that sharp, piercing cry of a terrified newborn. It was a cry of pure distress and fear. Madison was broadcasting the entire scene live, narrating, "This is what happens when trashy gold diggers mess with the wrong family. You are watching karma in real time." Hateful comments poured in. "She is getting what she deserves. Get her out of there. That is a fake baby mama." 500,000 people were watching my life get destroyed. The guards began dragging me across the marble. I was too weak from the surgery to resist, and the blood loss was making me lightheaded. My shoulder slammed into the corner of a marble pillar with a sickening crunch. A hot flash of pain shot through my arm. I was sure it was dislocated. My bracelet snagged on the sharp edge of the column. The main charm snapped off and slid across the polished floor. A housemaid discreetly picked it up and slipped it into her pocket. I did not realize then how important she would become. I was bleeding and screaming and begging for them to stop. Alexis just stood there laughing. "This is just pathetic, Michael. Is this really the girl you wasted 3 years of your life on?" Michael's voice was hollow and devoid of emotion. "Just get her out of the house." He lacked even the decency to show remorse. They dragged me to the enormous oak front doors and wrenched them open. A full-blown blizzard was raging outside. The temperature was 15 degrees Fahrenheit, but the wind chill made it feel like -5. The snow was coming down so thick You could not see 10 feet in front of you. The wind howled with a raw, animal fury. They shoved me down the stone steps. I tried to brace for the fall, but I landed hard, tumbling down 5 stairs. Each impact was agony. My injured shoulder bore the brunt of the fall. I collapsed in a heap in the snow at the bottom, my blood turning the pristine white ground a deep red. My bag was thrown after me, its contents spilling out. Medication, diapers, a single change of clothes, everything I owned in the world. Then one of the guards carelessly tossed Grace down at me. I managed to catch her, hugging her tightly to my chest to shield her from the biting cold. From the doorway, Madison yelled, "If you ever come back, we will have you arrested for trespassing. Say goodbye to your fake baby." Victoria's final words sliced through the storm. This is exactly where garbage belongs. The heavy door slammed shut, the sound echoing down the deserted street. I sat there in the freezing snow, bleeding from multiple injuries, my shoulder dislocated, my C-section wound torn open. Grace's cries grew fainter, a sound far more terrifying than her screams. My phone had shattered in the fall. I had no money, no coat, just a thin hospital cardigan, and no proper shoes, only flimsy hospital slippers that were already soaked. In that moment, I truly believed that Grace and I were going to die. "I am so sorry, my sweet baby girl," I whispered, tucking her further into my cardigan to share what little body heat I had left. "Mommy tried so hard. I am so sorry." Then, Grace fell silent. That silence filled me with a terror I had never known. Babies do not get quiet in the freezing cold unless something is terribly wrong. "Please do not leave me," I pleaded with her small, still body. "Please, you are everything to me." My vision began to tunnel. The first signs of hypothermia were taking hold. I could feel my own body starting to shut down. I closed my eyes, preparing to just let it all go. And then I saw headlights cutting through the blizzard. 3 black Mercedes SUVs materialized out of the swirling snow like phantoms. They pulled to a stop directly in front of me. Their doors swung open before they had even come to a complete halt. An elderly gentleman in a perfectly tailored Tom Ford suit stepped out, holding a large umbrella. Even at 3:47 in the morning during a blizzard, he looked like he had just come from a corporate board meeting. "Miss Emma Catherine Morgan," he said, his voice calm and steady. "Thank God we found you in time." I could barely form words. "How? Who are you?" He knelt down in the snow next to me, completely ruining what must have been a $3,000 suit, but he did not seem to notice or care. "Your grandfather sent me," he explained. "We must get you both to a safe place immediately." From behind him, a team of paramedics in Harrington Global medical uniforms hurried towards us carrying heated blankets and emergency kits. "Grandfather?" I managed to say. "My mother's father passed away before I was born." "I do not have a—" "Yes, you do," he interrupted gently. "His name is William James Harrington, and we are taking you to the Harrington Medical Center right now. Your daughter is approximately 10 minutes away from critical hypothermia." The medical team moved with incredible speed and skill. They wrapped both Grace and me in heated blankets. They started an IV in my arm to combat severe dehydration and placed an oxygen mask on Grace, whose breathing had become dangerously shallow. Someone expertly stabilized my shoulder, while others applied pressure bandages to stop the bleeding. Within minutes, they had us safely inside one of the warm SUVs. After the biting cold, the warmth inside the vehicle was a miracle. An older gentleman, who I would later know as Richard Blackwell, was with us, calmly overseeing the situation as we drove through the blizzard. The drivers handled the vehicle with an expertise that made it seem like the storm was nothing. Richard was on his phone, his voice steady and professional. "Dr. Anderson, our estimated time of arrival is 8 minutes." I'm with a 28-year-old woman, 3 days after a C-section. She has active bleeding, a likely shoulder dislocation, and moderate hypothermia. Her 3-day-old baby is in critical condition with severe hypothermia. Please prepare the neonatal intensive care unit and a trauma team. One of the paramedics took my daughter Grace's temperature, 94.5, he reported softly. We have to bring her temperature up very gradually. A normal reading for a newborn is between 97 and 99 degrees. If her temperature dropped to 93, her organs would start to fail. I could only watch as they cared for my baby, feeling too weak to do anything but place my faith in these rescuers who had materialized out of the snowstorm. Our arrival at Harrington Private Medical Center was at 4:15 in the morning. This place was a world away from Mercy General, where I had delivered Grace. It was a private institution designed for the very rich, featuring marble floors, original artwork, and patient rooms that resembled luxury hotel suites. Grace was immediately taken to the neonatal intensive care unit. A group of 6 specialists surrounded her, starting warming procedures and connecting her to monitors with practiced precision. As they worked, the lead pediatrician, Dr. Anderson, told me, "You brought her in at the last possible moment. Another 5 minutes could have caused permanent harm." I was moved to a private suite that felt more like a room at the Four Seasons Hotel. There, doctors reset my dislocated shoulder, a procedure that was unbelievably painful but unavoidable, and they restitched my C-section incision. The medical team began a blood transfusion, administered intravenous fluids, and gave me antibiotics, explaining that the combination of the cold and my injuries created a serious risk of infection. They also gave me pain medication that, for the first time, actually provided relief. I woke up 7 hours later, at 11 in the morning, to the sight of sunlight pouring into the room. For a brief second, I hoped the entire ordeal had been a terrible dream, but then I saw my shoulder wrapped in bandages, the intravenous tubes in my arm, and all the surrounding medical devices. A wave of panic washed over me. "Grace, where is my daughter?" Just then, Dr. Morrison, the obstetrician who had delivered Grace at Mercy General, came into the room. "Emma, calm down," she said gently. "Grace is stable. She's in the neonatal intensive care unit under constant observation. She will be all right." "What are you doing here?" I asked, confused. "How did you know?" "Mr. Blackwell contacted me and explained what happened," she replied. "I resigned from Mercy General first thing this morning. I refused to be part of a system that would allow something like that to happen to a patient." The next person to come through the door was Rebecca, who rushed over and gave me a gentle, tearful hug. "Oh, Emma, I was so worried," she cried. "You weren't answering your phone, so I drove to the Sterling mansion. I saw the bloodstains on the snow. I thought the worst." "I'm all right," I reassured her. "We are both safe now." At that moment, Richard Blackwell came in, holding a leather portfolio. "Ladies, if you'll excuse us, I must speak with Emma privately," he said. "The information I have is highly confidential." Rebecca and Dr. Morrison left the room. Though they were clearly hesitant, Richard then moved a chair next to my bed. A nurse brought Grace in, nestled in a mobile intensive care bassinet. She was still connected to monitors, but was doing well. The sight of my daughter, alive and out of danger, brought a fresh wave of tears. "Emma," Richard began, "your mother's name was Catherine Harrington before she took the name Catherine Morgan. Your grandfather was William James Harrington. He founded and served as the chief executive officer of Harrington Global Industries." He handed me a photograph of an older man who had a kind look in his eyes, but also radiated authority. I had never seen his face before. My mother never spoke of her relatives. She always told me they had passed away. Richard then explained the family history. My mother left home when she was 19 years old, following a major argument with her father over my dad, James Morgan. William was convinced that James was only interested in her for her wealth. It turned out he was correct, but Catherine was fiercely independent and proud. She walked away without a penny, adopted a new name, relocated to Ohio, and juggled 3 different jobs to support me by herself after my father left us when I was just 2 years old. Her pride prevented her from ever contacting her father again, and his pride stopped him from ever saying he was sorry. They were 2 headstrong people who cared for each other deeply, but were trapped by their own egos. A stalemate that lasted until my mother was killed in a car accident 5 years ago. William was completely heartbroken. He had been keeping tabs on her for a long time, always from a distance, never making contact. After she died, he began searching for me. He located you 2 years ago, Richard explained, just after your wedding to Michael Sterling. I felt the air leave my lungs. For the last 2 years, William has been watching over you. He hired a security detail to follow you and had cameras installed to monitor the Sterling property. He was aware of everything they put you through. Richard then played videos for me. I saw footage of Victoria forcing me to act as a waitress at her parties, Jonathan treating me like free labor, Madison's constant taunts, and Michael's utter indifference to it all. Why didn't he do something to help me? I asked, my voice cracking. Richard told me that William desperately wanted to step in, but his legal team, which included Richard himself, urged him to be patient. They had to create an unbreakable legal shield for the inheritance, ensuring the Sterlings could never argue that I had married Michael with knowledge of my family's fortune. This way, there would be no grounds for them to challenge the will. They were constructing a trust that would shield you from any claim. The entire plan was for William to introduce himself to you on February 15th, the day after your daughter was born, which is today. That call from an unknown number last night, I murmured. Richard confirmed it with a nod. That was William. He was on a flight from London. He was calling to let you know he would be at the hospital this morning for your first meeting. For the first time, Richard's voice trembled with emotion. His plane touched down at 6 in the morning. He went directly to his car. I phoned him to finalize the time for your meeting. He wanted to know how you were. I had to tell him that you had been released from the hospital, and we had no idea of your location. The Global Positioning System tracker indicated you were at the Sterling estate. A Global Positioning System tracker? The bracelet. The one that belonged to your mother, the one you never take off. William had a medical-grade tracking chip placed inside the charm. It's waterproof, has a 5-year battery life, and includes heat sensors. I instinctively reached for my wrist, but the bracelet was not there. It must have broken and fallen off in the snow. That's how we were able to locate you. At 3 in the morning, the heat sensor sent out an emergency signal warning that your body temperature was dropping into the hypothermic range. I contacted William right away to let him know you were in trouble. He immediately accessed the live video from the security cameras at the Sterling house. Richard played a video on his tablet. I saw the whole attack, Madison broadcasting it live, me being pulled outside and thrown down the stairs, the blood on the ground, and Grace on the verge of death. Everything was marked with a timestamp. William saw that video at 5 minutes past 7 this morning while he was in his car. Richard's composure finally broke. At 7 minutes past 7, his driver called me. William had suffered a massive heart attack and collapsed. The ambulance crew got there at 7:21. His time of death was officially recorded as 7:07 a.m. The cruel twist of fate felt like a punch to the gut. Emma, listen to me, Richard said, his voice firm. When they tossed you onto those steps at 3 in the morning, you were, in their eyes, a nobody. You were exactly what they always called you: poor, weak, and disposable. But at 7:07 a.m., just 4 hours later, the moment William's death became official, you inherited his entire $2.3 billion fortune. They left you for dead in the snow when you were penniless. But as you lay on that frozen ground, the clock was moving you closer to becoming a billionaire. They just had not realized it. I looked at him, my mind struggling to grasp the information. Your grandfather passed away while witnessing their cruelty, fully aware that he was giving you the power to bring about their ruin. Richard gave me an envelope made of thick, expensive paper, addressed in William's own hand. Through my tears, I began to read, "My dearest Emma, if you are reading this letter, it means I have passed away. I am so sorry that I took so long to reach out. I was on my way home to finally see you, to apologize for letting your mother down, for not locating you earlier, and for standing by while that family caused you so much pain. My priority was to get the legal safeguards in place. I was determined to ensure that nobody could ever steal what belongs to you. But I now see that my first duty should have been to keep you safe. I viewed the security video this morning. When I saw them cast you and your baby out into the snow, I knew I had made a grave error. My heart, quite literally, could not bear it. But I can still keep you safe, even now. My entire life's work now belongs to you. The $2.3 billion, the 40 corporations, the real estate in 18 different nations, it is all yours. I want you to take control of this empire. Let them see the strength that runs in the Harrington family. Do not ever let anyone make you feel small again. Make them answer for every injury, every tear, and every second they treated you as if you were nothing. You are not disposable. You are my grandchild. Your power is immense, and my only regret is that I will not be here to watch you claim it. With all my love, Grandfather William." I held the letter tightly, my body shaking with sobs. Beside me, Grace slept peacefully in her bassinet, finally out of harm's way. "The trust is already active," Richard informed me. "The entire estate is transferred to you, effective immediately. There will be no probate court and no waiting period. The inheritance taxes have been handled, and the board of directors has been notified. Emma, as of 8 o'clock this morning, you are the new chairwoman of Harrington Global Industries, and the Sterlings are completely unaware." I raised my head. Tears were still streaming down my cheeks, but my expression had changed. A new, cold resolve had taken root. "I want to know every detail of their company," I stated. "Every single vulnerability, every point of weakness." For the first time, Richard allowed himself a smile. "That is exactly what your grandfather would have said." The following day, February 16th, I was in a wheelchair inside the main conference room at Harrington Global. My body was still healing, but I had to grasp the extent of the power I now possessed. Grace was next to me in a high-end stroller, attended by a nurse from the Harrington medical team. She was getting stronger, her jaundice was almost gone, and she had a healthy pink glow. Richard placed several leather-bound files in front of me, each one dedicated to a member of the Sterling family. "Sterling Industries is facing financial ruin," he started. "They are in debt for a total of $83 million. He laid out the financial reports. Jonathan has illegally taken $12 million from the employee pension fund to finance his lifestyle. A series of bad business decisions has cost them another $31 million. On top of that, they have outstanding business loans amounting to $40 million. Without a major infusion of capital, they were only 3 months away from going completely bankrupt." Richard explained. "Jonathan went after a $75 million contract with Harrington Global last month. It is a government defense deal where we serve as the middleman. This contract is their last chance for survival, and we are the ones who decide if they get it. You decide? You are the chief executive officer." He then pulled up the file on Victoria. It detailed her passion project, Sterling-style boutiques. She had 5 shops spread across Connecticut and Manhattan, and every single one was in a building owned by Harrington. Richard added that the leases were all coming up for renewal in just 47 days. She is already behind on rent by $480,000. But the most damning part is this. She has been deliberately underreporting her income to the Internal Revenue Service. We have concrete proof of $2.3 million in tax evasion. Can we turn her in? I asked. The anonymous tip is already written, he replied, just waiting for you to give the word. That is when private investigator James Crawford handed me Madison's file. Madison Sterling, currently 32 years old, presents herself as 26 on all of her social media accounts. He placed her official driver's license right next to a screenshot of her Instagram profile. The birth years were completely different. She had undergone extensive plastic surgery, none of which she ever disclosed, a nose job in 2019, breast implants in 2020, along with ongoing cheek fillers, Botox, and lip injections. She got a Brazilian butt lift in 2021. Her modeling contract with the Prestige agency has a specific clause against undisclosed cosmetic procedures. It is an immediate cause for termination of her contract. Who is the owner of Prestige Agency? I asked. Richard just smiled. As of yesterday, that would be you. Harrington Global completed the acquisition 2 weeks ago. Madison has no idea. Michael's file was the next one on the table. The entire college bet was documented in full, preserved in a group chat with 8 members. Not a single one of them was smart enough to delete the conversation. Brad Miller, age 23, wrote, "Dude, there is no way you can stay married to that broke girl for 3 years." Michael Sterling replied, "I bet $100,000 that I can. It will be the easiest money I have ever made." Lord Chad Morrison asked, "What happens if she discovers the truth?" Michael Sterling wrote back, "She never will. She is far too stupid and desperate to ever question a thing." There was also a video. It was the footage from the bachelor party that Victoria had shown me, but this was the complete, unedited version. In it, Michael was talking about how he just closed his eyes and imagined I was Alexis, and everyone was laughing hysterically. Crawford also revealed that Michael had embezzled $3.8 million from Sterling Industries to pay for his lavish lifestyle with Alexis. He added, "Jonathan is aware of the theft, but covered it up to protect the family." Last was the file for Alexis Beaumont, only that was not her real name. Her name is Alexandra Marie Thompson, Crawford explained as he displayed her mugshot from California. Taken in 2019. She is a professional con artist with 3 documented cases against her. Case number 11. From 2018, she was engaged to a tech millionaire named Richard Pemberton. She faked a pregnancy, stole $400,000, and then vanished right before the supposed miscarriage. Case number 2. From 2020, she was engaged to a hedge fund manager named David Collins. She faked another pregnancy, stole $650,000, and disappeared. Case number 3, from 2021, she was engaged to a pharmaceutical executive, Marcus Whitmore. She tried the fake pregnancy scheme again, but was caught before she could get any money. An arrest warrant was issued. She is currently a wanted fugitive in California for fraud, jumping bail, identity theft, and wire fraud. The pregnancy she claims with Michael is also a complete fabrication. We traced the ultrasound picture. She purchased it from a forum on the dark web for $200. Is Michael aware of any of this? I asked. Not at this time. I took a moment to think. If I reveal who Alexis is right now, Michael will just get sympathy. People will see him as a poor man who was tricked by a skilled con artist. Richard gave me a look of approval. You are catching on quickly. We will hold on to the information about Alexis and use it later, at the moment it will cause the most possible damage. Over the following 8 weeks, I completely reinvented myself. The first week was focused on my physical recovery and learning the basics of the business. I had physical therapy for my shoulder and my C-section recovery, and I learned how to hold grace while reviewing quarterly reports. Richard taught me how to analyze financial statements. I attended board meetings, remaining silent and just observing, soaking in every detail about each division of Harrington Global. In the second week, I transformed into a businesswoman. I took a crash course in business administration with Harrington's top executives, identified all the weaknesses of Sterling Industries, and took pages of detailed notes. I started asking sharp, insightful questions that clearly impressed the executives. I gave my first solo presentation to the board, detailing my plan for the tech division. I absolutely nailed it. The third week was dedicated to my physical transformation. I went on shopping sprees for designer clothes, filling my closet with Tom Ford suits, Armani blazers, and Louboutin heels. I had my soft brown hair professionally colored to a sleek platinum blonde with balayage highlights. I took lessons from a professional makeup artist and had media training to refine my voice, my posture, and how to command a presence. My coach told me, stand as if you own the entire room, because now you do. In week 4, I learned what real power felt like. I started taking self-defense classes, specifically Krav Maga. I vowed to never feel helpless again. I participated in intense negotiation workshops with Richard, met with the company's lawyers, and learned exactly how to legally dismantle a person's life. I would practice my boardroom expression in the mirror until it was cold, powerful, and completely unbreakable. During weeks 5 and 6, we began making our strategic moves. Harrington Global began to quietly acquire the debt of Sterling Industries from 15 different creditors. We used a shell company to purchase the modeling agency that Madison was signed with. We hired a team of forensic accountants to conduct a thorough audit of Victoria's boutiques and prepared all the evidence to be sent to the IRS. Week 7 was all about laying the final trap. I worked with the graphics team to prepare my boardroom presentation. I made myself watch the security footage of my own assault, which was recovered from the Sterling estate. The maid, who had taken my bracelet charm, was the one who provided it. She came forward after Emma paid her $50,000 for both the charm and the footage she had secretly recorded on her phone. We started leaking anonymous tips about Madison to gossip blogs and scheduled the official business meeting with Jonathan. During week 8, I made my final preparations. I rehearsed my boardroom speech over and over in front of the mirror. Grace was now 2 months old, thriving, healthy, and being looked after by a team of professional nannies. I stood there, dressed in my full power suit. My hair was platinum, and my red lipstick was applied with surgical precision. I looked at my reflection and could hardly recognize the woman who was staring back at me. It is time to destroy them, I said to myself. The meeting was scheduled for April 12th. They had no idea what kind of force they were about to confront. On April 2nd, just 10 days before the big meeting, Madison was still posting on Instagram every day. She was on a beach vacation in Turks and Caicos, paid for by her parents. Her caption read, 26 and living my best life, feeling blessed, all natural beauty, no filter. She had 486,000 followers. The comments were filled with people gushing about how flawless she was. Madison believed she was untouchable. I decided to call her from my old phone number, the one she would still have in her contacts. She answered the phone laughing. I could hear Alexis and Victoria in the background with her. Oh my God, you guys, the trash is actually calling me. I am putting you on speaker. Emma, how is life in whatever gutter you have crawled into? Did you manage to find a homeless shelter that will accept babies? I made my voice sound quiet and broken, putting on a performance. I just wanted to ask if you might reconsider the case with Child Protective Services. Please, I miss Grace so terribly much. The CPS case had actually been dismissed during week 1 because there was no evidence, but Madison was cruel enough to let me believe it was still ongoing. Oh, honey, it turns out CPS did not want your baby either. You are such a pathetic excuse for a mother. But hey, on the bright side, the wedding for Michael and Alexis is happening next month. You are more than welcome to come and watch it from the servants' entrance. They all erupted in cackling laughter. I heard Victoria in the background say, "Tell her we have already forgotten she even exists." Then Alexis chimed in, "Tell her Michael said the last 3 years were the worst of his entire life." They laughed even harder. "You know what, Emma? You have always been a nobody. You will always be a nobody. But thanks for the laugh, bye." She hung up, and their laughter echoed for a moment. I was sitting in the main office of Harrington Global. The phone was on speaker, so Richard and Crawford had heard every word. My expression was pure ice, completely devoid of emotion. "Did you get everything you needed?" Richard asked. I nodded. "Yes. Release the Madison package. Now." On April 3rd, at 6 o'clock in the morning, the gossip blog Elite Secrets published an article titled "Instagram Influencer Madison Sterling: The Lies Behind the Likes." It was a complete expose, and it included proof for every claim. It had her real driver's license, which clearly showed she was 32, and medical records, legally obtained through billing audits that detailed all of her plastic surgeries. There were before and after pictures comparing her claims of natural beauty to the surgical reality. Financial documents proved that her parents were funding 70% of her so-called influencer lifestyle. There were even screenshots of her lying to brands about her real age. The article went viral in less than 2 hours. The hashtag Madison Sterling Exposed was the #1 trending topic on Twitter. Videos on TikTok began analyzing every single one of her photos for signs of surgery. Beauty YouTubers were uploading videos with titles like "Madison Sterling lied to all of us." Her sponsors started to cancel their contracts. Sephora cited a breach of contract and misrepresentation. Fashion Nova released a statement saying, "We require honesty from our partners. Your contract is terminated." Flat Tummy Tea announced, "We are ending our partnership, effective immediately." 12 more brands pulled their support within 4 hours. At 9 in the morning, Prestige Modeling Agency sent her an email. It read, "Dear Madison, due to contractual violations concerning undisclosed cosmetic procedures and age misrepresentation, we are terminating your contract, effective immediately. Please return all agency property by the close of business today." Madison had no clue that I was the new owner of the agency. At 11 o'clock, she started an Instagram live stream, crying with her makeup running down her face. "You guys, these are all lies. I am 26. I have never had any surgery. This is all photoshopped. Somebody is trying to ruin my life." The comments started flooding in. "We have seen your driver's license, sis. Just be honest about it. You lied to all of us. Unfollow." 47,000 people were watching her public meltdown as it happened. Her follower count began to plummet. It went from 486,000 to 450,000 to 420,000, then to 380,000. Madison just sobbed into the camera. "Please, I have no idea who is doing this to me, but please, just make it stop." Victoria called her. "Get off of Instagram right now. You're only making things worse." "Mom, somebody leaked everything. My private medical records. How is that even legal?" "I do not care," her mother snapped. "Just fix this." Within a single week, Madison's follower count had dropped to 180,000. She had no sponsors, no modeling agency, and the gossip blogs were publishing new follow-up articles about her every day. Her name had become a joke. She called Victoria, completely desperate. Can you please get Dad to make this all go away? Your father, Victoria replied, is dealing with his own set of problems. Sterling Industries was beginning to crumble, and it was all going according to plan. I sat with Richard and watched the news reports. Phase 1 was complete, and Madison was officially out of the picture. She had called me trash and filmed my assault for her own sick amusement. She was getting exactly what she deserved. Richard turned to me and asked, "So, who is next on the list?" I replied, "Alexis." After that, we would save Victoria and Jonathan for the grand finale in the boardroom. On April 5th, inside the Sterling mansion, Michael and Alexis were busy living their lie. They were planning a May wedding, and Alexis's belly was growing larger by the day. The prosthetic pregnancy bump was of the highest quality and looked completely real. Victoria was obsessing over every detail of the wedding plans, while Jonathan was quietly stressing about the state of the business, hiding his worries from everyone. That afternoon, an anonymous FedEx package arrived. Michael took it into his study to open it. Inside, he found a complete dossier on a woman named Alexander Marie Thompson. It contained her entire criminal record, mugshots from 3 different convictions, and detailed proof of her faked pregnancies. The file even included the ultrasound picture she had shown him, complete with metadata proving it was purchased from an online store. There were also bank records detailing how she had stolen $650,000 from her previous victims. A simple note was tucked inside. It read, "Michael, for 3 years, you made me feel like garbage. Now you get to see how it feels to be the fool. You should check her belly. It is not real. You are welcome. A friend." Michael flew into a rage and stormed into the master bedroom, where Alexis was getting dressed. He threw the entire folder at her and screamed, "Who in the hell are you?" Alexis began to stammer, "Baby, please, I can explain everything." He shot back, "Your name is not even Alexis. You are nothing but a con artist." She tried to make a run for it, but he grabbed her by the arm. Her sleeve snagged on a dresser drawer, and the prosthetic pregnancy belly tumbled out from under her dress. It was made of expensive silicone, but it was undeniably fake. It landed on the hardwood floor with a heavy, dull thud. Michael just stared at it, his face a mask of disbelief. "Get out of my house right now," he said, his voice dangerously low. Just then, Victoria and Jonathan rushed into the room, drawn by the shouting. They saw the scattered papers from the file on the floor. Victoria gasped in shock. Jonathan bent down and picked up the dossier. "My God," he said, "she is wanted in California." Alexis made a desperate move for her purse, but Jonathan stepped in front of the door, blocking her escape. "You are not going anywhere," he said firmly. "I am calling the police." At exactly 11 in the morning, officers from the Greenwich Police Department arrived. They were holding a warrant from California that had finally been processed. As they put Alexis in handcuffs, she started screaming, "This is a complete setup. Somebody sent you that information. Someone is targeting our family." Victoria froze. Who would even know about Madison? She wondered aloud. First it was me, and now Alexis. Someone is definitely coming after us. Jonathan tried to calm her down, saying, "Do not be paranoid, Victoria. It is just a coincidence." But the doubt was clear on his face. Later that night, Michael sat alone in his study, drinking scotch in the dark. His entire world was falling apart. The 3-year marriage he was in had started as a cruel bet, something his friends still laughed about. He had a real daughter with Emma, a daughter he had completely abandoned. He had just discovered Alexis was a professional con artist. And to top it all off, the company was failing. It seemed like everything he touched turned into garbage. He picked up his phone and scrolled to my old number, which was now disconnected. For a moment, he almost tried to call, just to apologize. Then Victoria walked in. "Do not even think about it," she snapped. He mumbled, "Maybe we were too hard on her. And the baby, Grace. She is my daughter, and I—" Victoria slapped him hard across the face. "That woman is gone. She is nothing to us. You need to focus on what actually matters, which is saving this family's business." Michael looked at her, worried. What if someone is targeting us because of what we did to Emma? Victoria just laughed. "Emma? That pathetic little girl is probably dead in a ditch somewhere by now. She does not have the resources or the brains to come after a family like ours." I watched every second of this exchange on a hacked security feed, listening to their every word. My face was a mask of cold fury. On April 6th, I continued to watch the Sterling family implode through my network of cameras. Richard said to me, "The Sterlings are destroying themselves. Michael and Alexis have broken up, Madison's career is ruined, and Victoria is in a full-blown panic about their money. You could stop all of this right now. You could take Grace, move to Paris, and just live your life. They are already suffering enough." I looked down at my daughter, Grace, who was 2.5 months old, and smiling up at me. "Maybe you are right," I said. "Maybe getting revenge is not worth it. They are already tearing themselves apart. All I really want is peace. I want Grace to grow up far away from all of this ugliness." I even started drafting plans to relocate our lives to London, since Harrington Global had offices in Europe. I could easily run the company from there. I would never have to see the Sterlings again, and could just let them rot in the mess they had created. For a brief moment, I seriously considered showing them mercy. But then, April 8th happened. A thick envelope of legal papers arrived at the Harrington Global office. It was an emergency custody petition from the Sterling family filed against me, Emma Morgan. They claimed I had abandoned Grace. They had fabricated witness statements from staff they paid at the mansion, saying I was mentally unstable. They even included an updated, fake psychiatric evaluation from Dr. Rothman. Their petition argued that the Sterling family could provide a stable, two-parent household. It claimed that Michael was a changed man who wanted to make amends. It stated that a child's best interest was to be in a wealthy, stable Sterling home, not with a single mother. An emergency hearing was scheduled for April 11th, only 3 days away. The judge assigned to the case was the Honorable Robert Whitmore of the Connecticut Family Court. Richard's face was grim. "Emma, this is extremely serious," he said. "Whitmore is old money, Connecticut. He plays golf with Jonathan Sterling. He is known to be biased toward what he calls traditional family structures." I argued, "But I have evidence. I have proof of the assault, the abuse." Richard shook his head. "They are going to claim that all of your evidence was obtained illegally. Without admissible evidence, it is just your word against theirs. In a Connecticut family court, they have the home court advantage." The terrible realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I have $2.3 billion, and I could still lose my own daughter. Money does not always win in family court, especially when the judge is already in your opponent's pocket. My legal team, made up of 5 of the best lawyers in the country, gathered to strategize. One said, "We need Dr. Morrison's testimony about the abuse at the hospital." Richard replied, "She is terrified." Testifying would mean going against the very hospital that the Sterling family donates millions to. Another lawyer asked, "What about Rebecca Martinez?" "The nurse?" Richard said. "Her testimony would be considered hearsay. She did not actually witness the assault herself. And the security footage from the mansion is illegally obtained," another added. "It is inadmissible in court." I looked at them, my hope sinking. "So we have nothing?" The lead counsel was brutally honest. We have your testimony, but they will paint you as a bitter, vindictive ex-daughter-in-law, and we already know that Judge Whitmore leans in their direction. On April 11th, we were at the Connecticut Family Court in downtown New Haven. I arrived with my legal team. Across the aisle, the Sterling family sat with a team of 8 lawyers. The Sterling's lead lawyer began his opening statement. Your Honor, this case is about a child's welfare. Grace Sterling was born into a loving family. Her father, Michael Sterling, has made mistakes, as we all do, but he is now committed to being the father she deserves. Her grandmother, Victoria Sterling, and her grandfather, Jonathan Sterling, are pillars of Connecticut society. They have the resources and stability to provide her with an exceptional upbringing. He continued, the respondent, Emma Morgan, has demonstrated erratic behavior. She abandoned her child with strangers while she has been seen entering and leaving various luxury hotels and corporate buildings. They were twisting my work building, Harrington Global, into something suspicious and shady. My lawyer stood up to counter. Your Honor, this is a transparent attempt by an abusive family to further victimize my client. Emma Morgan was assaulted and then thrown out of the Sterling home during a blizzard with her 3-day-old infant. The other lawyer immediately shouted, objection! No evidence of an assault has been presented. The judge replied, sustained. Counsel, please stick to the facts and evidence. Then Victoria took the stand, dressed like the perfect caring grandmother in a Chanel suit and pearls, her face a mask of concern. Your Honor, she began, her voice soft and convincing, I loved Emma like she was my own daughter. We welcomed her into our home, despite her humble background. We tried our best to help her adjust to our family's lifestyle. When she had the baby, we were all overjoyed. But then Emma became increasingly paranoid and accusatory. She claimed we were trying to steal Grace from her. We were only trying to help. She continued her lie. She left our home voluntarily in the middle of the night. We were worried sick about her. Now we find out we do not even know where she is living or what she is doing. Michael just wants to be a father to his little girl. My lawyer began his cross-examination. Mrs. Sterling, you claim Emma left voluntarily. Can you explain why a woman recovering from surgery would leave in a blizzard with a newborn baby? Victoria replied coolly, I do not know. As I told you, she was acting irrationally. He pressed on, did you or anyone else in your family put your hands on Emma Morgan? Absolutely not, she said, without hesitation. That is a vicious lie. What about this? My lawyer asked, attempting to show the video from Madison's Instagram account. Objection, the Sterling's lawyer yelled. That footage was obtained without consent and has clearly been edited. The judge immediately agreed. Sustained. I will not consider any illegally obtained evidence in my courtroom. Next, Madison testified. She had been coached and was much more subdued after her recent public humiliation. Emma always resented our family, she said quietly. She was jealous of me and of our lifestyle. The night she left, she was screaming at my mother and threatening all of us. We tried to calm her down, but she just ran out into the snow. I was scared for the baby. That is why I recorded it, to document her erratic behavior for Child Protective Services. Then Michael gave the performance of a lifetime. Your Honor, he said, his voice thick with fake emotion. I made terrible mistakes. I was a bad husband. I neglected Emma. I am deeply ashamed, but I love my daughter. I want to be her father. I am in therapy now, and I am working on myself. My family can provide her with stability, a home, and resources. He looked over at me. A future. With Emma, I do not even know where she is living. How can she possibly care for Grace properly? Then, it was my turn to take the stand. I told the truth about everything. I told them about the bet, the constant abuse, the ambush at the hospital, and how they threw me out into the snow. The Sterling's lawyer completely destroyed me on cross-examination. Miss Morgan, you claim there was abuse, but you have absolutely no evidence. There are no police reports, no hospital records of this so-called assault, and no witnesses besides your close friends who would naturally support you. Is it not true that you are simply a bitter ex-wife trying to keep a loving father away from his child? I said, no. They threw me down the steps. I have footage of it. He pounced. Footage you obtained illegally by hacking into their private security system? My lawyer shouted, objection! But the judge said, overruled. Answer the question, Miss Morgan. I stammered. Someone recovered it for me, modeled. So you are admitting it was obtained through illegal actions? Judge Whitmore stated, before giving his decision. He continued, this is a very challenging case. My main concern must be the child's well-being. While I believe Miss Morgan is a devoted mother, the absence of solid proof for her claims is troubling. On the other hand, the Sterling family has shown they have the means, a stable home, and a sincere wish to care for Grace. For these reasons, I am awarding temporary custody to Michael Sterling and his family. This will be followed by a full 30-day evaluation. Miss Morgan is granted supervised visits twice a week. My entire world collapsed. No, oh no, please. Grace was led in from the waiting area. I clutched her tightly, sobbing uncontrollably. No, please, do not take her away from me. Please. A social worker had to gently pry Grace from my embrace. Victoria took my daughter with a smirk on her face. Grace was weeping and reaching out for me. I crumbled to the floor. This felt even worse than being left in the snow. This time, I had money, influence, and connections. I had everything on my side, and I still could not win. The legal system had completely failed me. On the courthouse steps, camera flashes went off everywhere as the media swarmed the case. Victoria carried Grace to the Sterling's car with Madison walking beside her, both looking triumphant. Michael refused to even make eye contact with me. That night, I was all alone in the Harrington Global penthouse, just staring at Grace's empty crib. I finally called Richard. I did everything the right way, by the book, and they still came out on top. They have my daughter. He replied, we will appeal. We will keep fighting. No. My voice was different now, ice cold and resolute. No more us or following their rules. I am done playing their game. You once told me that I own the entire board. Well, I am about to flip the whole thing over. I want you to arrange the contract meeting. I need every single one of them in that room by April 12th. That is tomorrow. Richard asked, Emma, are you certain about this? I responded, they wanted a war? I will give them total annihilation. Richard and I worked from midnight until 6 in the morning. I contacted Dr. Morrison. I need you to testify. I promise I will keep you safe, please. She was crying on the phone. I am so scared. I told her, so am I, but we have to do this. Crawford managed to find Madison's Instagram live stream from the hospital, which she never truly deleted. It was stored on Instagram's servers and was completely legal to access. My lawyers immediately filed an emergency motion presenting the new evidence. I did not sleep at all. I prepared myself as if for battle, choosing a white Tom Ford suit and styling my platinum hair. I applied perfect red lipstick and stared at my reflection in the mirror. It is time to end this. It was April 12th at 2 in the afternoon. The location was the Harrington Global Headquarters on the 52nd floor in Midtown Manhattan. The Sterling family pulled up in their Lexus. Their usual Mercedes was gone, repossessed, and replaced with an older car. They looked smaller somehow. Jonathan's suit hung loosely on him from losing so much weight from the stress. Victoria's jewelry was obviously fake, not the real diamonds she used to wear. She had to have pawned her authentic pieces just to pay the rent. Madison was not wearing a designer label. Her hair was a mess, and she looked completely worn out. Michael seemed hungover and defeated, but they were all trying to put on a brave face. This $75 million contract was their last hope. In the elevator, Victoria whispered, "Remember who we are. We are Sterlings. We come from old money, and they will respect that." "Jonathan, you need to let me do the talking during the negotiation. We absolutely have to secure this contract, or it is all over for us." Madison, busy on her phone, added, "At least the whole Emma situation is finally over. The judge gave us grace." Michael just kept his eyes on the elevator floor and said nothing. The doors slid open on the 52nd floor. The view was stunning, with windows from the floor to the ceiling showing the entire Manhattan skyline. The space was filled with modern art, a clear display of immense wealth. A receptionist showed them to a conference room with huge glass walls that overlooked Central Park. A massive conference table that could seat 20 people dominated the room. At the far end, the CEO's chair was turned away, facing the city. 8 board members in expensive suits were already there. Security guards were posted at the doors. A gigantic screen was mounted on the wall behind the main chair. The Sterlings took seats opposite the empty CEO chair. Jonathan nervously cleared his throat. "Thank you for giving us this opportunity." My voice sliced through the silence, interrupting him. "Hello, Jonathan." The large chair slowly swiveled around to face them. I was sitting there, looking powerful with my platinum blonde hair, a stylish white Tom Ford suit, red Louis Vuitton heels, and my grandfather's signet ring on my finger. My red lipstick was flawless, and my expression was pure ice. "Hello, Victoria, Madison, and Michael." Their reactions were like a scene in slow motion. The color completely drained from Jonathan's face, and he stumbled back into his seat. Victoria actually fainted. Madison managed to catch her, staring at me with pure terror. Madison's jaw dropped, her mind unable to comprehend what was happening. Her phone slipped from her hand and clattered on the floor. Michael was frozen solid, his eyes wide with shock, completely unable to form a word. The security guards moved to block the exits. Nobody was going anywhere. Jonathan finally managed to speak. "What is this? Is this some kind of sick joke?" I stood up and began to walk slowly around the conference table. My voice was calm but held a deadly edge. "Please have a seat. We are here to discuss a $75 million contract." Victoria came to, becoming hysterical. "This is crazy. This cannot be real. You are a nobody," I declared. "I am Chairwoman Emma Catherine Harrington, the Chief Executive Officer of Harrington Global Industries. I am the sole heir to my grandfather, William Harrington's $2.3 billion empire." I gestured to the official portrait of William Harrington hanging on the wall. "And you are all here because you submitted an application for a contract with my company." Michael finally found his voice. "This is impossible. How can this be?" I replied, "How am I here? Let me tell you all a story." I pressed a button on the remote, and the screen behind me came to life. The first thing on the screen was security footage from February 15th at 3 in the morning. It showed me being thrown down the steps of the Sterling estate, with the timestamp clearly visible. Victoria screamed, "Turn that off!" I said, "No, you're going to sit here and watch." The video played everything. It showed Madison live streaming the event, me being dragged across the marble floors, the blood stains, and Victoria demanding that I get on my knees. It showed the security guards ripping Grace from my arms, and me being tossed down the steps into the snow, leaving a trail of blood. Then the doors slammed shut. The entire boardroom fell silent. Even the executives, who had not seen it before, looked completely shocked. February 15th, at 3 in the morning, you threw me down those steps. At that exact moment, I was just as you said, a nobody, poor and powerless. The next image was William James Harrington's death certificate. The date of death was February 15th, at 7 in the morning, just 4 hours later. My grandfather had a fatal heart attack right after he watched the security footage of what you did to me. His will named me as his only heir, and it took effect the moment he died. I paused to let the full weight of my words sink in. So, when you threw me out into the snow at 3 in the morning, I was a nobody, but as the clock ticked closer to 7 in the morning, I became a billionaire. You just were not aware of it yet. Victoria whispered, "Oh my God." I continued, "That would make a great headline, would it not? In-laws and mistress throw new billionaire heiress into the snow, completely unaware of her inheritance. Now, let's talk about your current problems." The next slide displayed Jonathan Sterling's finances, all highlighted in red. Sterling Industries is $83 million in debt. Actually, it is not $83 million anymore. As of 3 weeks ago, I purchased $75 million of that debt from your creditors for a good price. I am calling in that debt today. You have 48 hours to pay me in full, or I will seize all of your assets. Jonathan opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Oh, and there is this. The FBI logo appeared on the screen, followed by email chains that proved Jonathan had been embezzling from the company's pension fund. The FBI received copies of these documents at 9 in the morning today. You should expect to be formally charged by the end of the week. The next slide was about Victoria Sterling's boutiques. Sterling-style boutiques, all 5 locations, are in buildings that I own. Your leases are terminated, effective immediately. The locks will be changed at 5 in the evening. You also owe $480,000 in back rent. I am suing you for that amount, plus damages. And one last thing. The IRS logo flashed on the screen. The IRS was notified about $2.3 million in tax evasion yesterday. You can expect an audit. A picture of Madison wearing my mother's jewelry appeared, and I am personally suing you for $5 million for stealing my mother's heirloom jewelry. Victoria gasped and clutched her chest. The next slide showed Madison Sterling. It displayed before and after photos of her recent scandal. Your modeling career is over. Your status as an influencer is gone. But this next part is my favorite. A video began to play. It was Madison's Instagram live stream from the hospital. The complete and unedited footage of her broadcasting my abuse. This was shown to 500,000 people. It is legally admissible as evidence. The Greenwich Police Department was sent this footage this morning. Assault charges have been filed. Madison burst into tears. Next up, Michael Sterling. The video of the college bet played in its entirety. Every cruel word, every laugh, and every disgusting comment he made about me was there for everyone to see. This video will be sent to every major news outlet at 6 in the evening today. Your embezzlement of $3.8 million from Sterling Industries has also been reported to the FBI. But here's the part that will hurt you the most. The final slide was about the custody case for Grace. New footage appeared on the screen. It was a recording from Dr. Morrison's phone at the hospital, with clear audio of the threats and assault. Then, Madison's Instagram live video played, which is admissible in court as a public broadcast. This was followed by a testimony from 3 former employees of the Sterling estate, whom I paid to come forward and tell the truth. An emergency motion was filed this morning with the Connecticut Family Court. With this new evidence, a different judge has been assigned, and a new hearing is set for tomorrow morning. You will never see Grace again. Michael screamed and lunged at me across the table. You witch! You have ruined everything. Security guards immediately tackled him and pinned him to the floor. I did not even flinch. Michael was on the ground, struggling against the guards. You ruined my life. We gave you everything. I leaned in close, my voice low, so only he could hear. You never gave me a single thing. Our entire marriage was just a bet to you. You stood by while they tormented me for 3 long years. You walked out on your own daughter when she was only 3 days old. I am not the one who ruined your life, Michael. You did that all by yourself. Victoria dropped to her knees, actually pleading. Please, please, we can work something out. We will give you anything you want. I will apologize. You have nothing that I could possibly want. I walked over to her and stared down. You called me trash. You told me I was a nobody. You said I belonged out in the snow. But trash does not build a $2.3 billion empire. Trash does not bring down dynasties. You did not throw away trash, Victoria. I leaned in closer. You threw away a queen. Jonathan, completely defeated, made one final plea. The contract. Please, we have to have it. There is no contract. There never was one. This meeting was never about a business deal. It was about making you understand precisely who you tried to destroy and who was now destroying you. I reached for the remote again. Oh, and one last thing. The screen switched to a live stream on YouTube. The current viewer count read 4.2 million. This entire meeting has been broadcast live to my private YouTube channel. 4.2 million people just witnessed this whole conversation. The screen was flooded with comments. Holy cow. She is an absolute queen. They are getting everything they deserve. This is the greatest revenge story I have ever witnessed. Emma Harrington is my new hero. Madison's voice was a panicked shriek. You cannot do that. That is illegal. We never consented to being filmed. You should check the non-disclosure agreement you signed when you came into the building. Clause 47 covers media consent for business meetings. I passed Victoria the document she had signed without even looking at it. You did not read it? I actually learned that from you. Always read what you sign. It was a direct reference to the hospital scene where they had made me sign divorce papers against my will. Security guards escorted them from the room, and they were not gentle about it. Victoria was literally being dragged out. You are going to regret this. We are going to sue you. We will sue. Sue me with what money? You are completely bankrupt. Goodbye, Victoria. Madison was sobbing hysterically. I am sorry. I am so sorry, please. You filmed me at my lowest point for entertainment. You hoped I would go viral for being humiliated. Well, congratulations. You are going viral now, too. Michael's eyes met mine one final time. Emma, please think about Grace. She is my daughter. No, she is my daughter. You are just the sperm donor who abandoned her. You will never be allowed to see her again. Security then dragged him out of the room. Jonathan just walked out in silence, a broken and defeated man. His entire empire was gone. I stood by myself in the boardroom, looking out over the Manhattan skyline. Richard came in. The stream is still going, 5.8 million viewers, and counting. I just nodded. My phone began to buzz. It was a text from Dr. Morrison. We have an emergency custody hearing tomorrow with the new evidence. We are going to win. Grace is finally coming home. I smiled for the first time in months. A genuine, real smile. Outside the Harrington Global building, The Sterling family walked out into absolute pandemonium. 50 reporters were waiting, their camera flashes blinding, as they screamed questions. Is it true you left a newborn in the snow? Did you really marry her as part of a bet? Are you about to be arrested? Agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation were waiting for them. Jonathan Sterling, Michael Sterling. You are under arrest for embezzlement and wire fraud. They were immediately handcuffed as their rights were read to them. Victoria and Madison were not arrested just yet, but they were completely mobbed by the media. Madison's phone was buzzing non-stop with hateful messages. Victoria was desperately trying to hide her face from the cameras. On Twitter, the story was trending all over the world. Sterling Family Exposed was #1, Emma Harrington was #2, and Billion Dollar Revenge was #3. The very next morning, the emergency custody hearing was held. With Dr. Morrison's testimony, the recording from the hospital, and Madison's own public live stream as evidence, the judge made an immediate ruling. Full custody was returned to me. The Sterlings were granted 0 visitation rights while their criminal proceedings were pending. When they finally brought Grace to me, I just held her and cried. She was safe, truly and finally safe. 6 months later, on October 15th, I was featured on the cover of Forbes magazine. Emma Harrington, the chief executive officer who rose from nothing, stock, in Harrington Global, was up by 40%. We had already expanded into 3 new markets. I sat in my office with Grace, who was now 8 months old, playing happily on a mat next to my desk. Rebecca came to visit. You actually did it. We did it, I corrected her. The fate of the Sterling family was sealed. Jonathan was convicted and sentenced to 12 years in federal prison for his embezzlement scheme. Victoria was placed under house arrest, completely bankrupt, and had to work in retail at a department store to pay off her Internal Revenue Service debt while living in a tiny studio apartment. Madison did not face any criminal charges, but her career was completely destroyed. She now worked in customer service for a call center. Her Instagram followers had dropped down to just 12,000. She had lost 97% of them. Michael accepted a plea deal and was sentenced to 7 years in prison. He also formally signed away all of his parental rights to Grace. Alexis, or as she was really known, Alexandra Thompson, was convicted in California and sentenced to 15 years for multiple counts of fraud. Sometimes people will ask me if I have any regrets or if all that revenge was really worth it. I just look at Grace, who is so happy and healthy, growing up knowing that she is loved and completely safe. I think about the $50 million I donated to women's shelters and services for victims of abuse. I think about all the women who have contacted me to share their own stories of surviving abuse and finding their inner strength. The original video of my assault has now been viewed 127 million times. The Sterling family became a global symbol of karma and justice. Their cruelty was laid bare for the entire world to see. Was it worth it? It was worth every single second. Let me tell you something. I learned a lesson that I wish someone had told me back when I was lying in that snow, certain that I was worthless. Pain does not break everyone. Sometimes, if you are strong enough, if you simply refuse to stay down, pain will forge you into something harder than any diamond, something that is truly unbreakable. When they threw me down those icy stairs, I was broken and bleeding, convinced I was a nobody. But I was so wrong. I was not a nobody. I was just someone who had not yet realized her own power. For weeks, the media attention from the live stream was incredibly intense. I could not go anywhere without someone recognizing me. Some people called me their hero, while others said I was just vindictive, that getting revenge was beneath me, and that I should have been the bigger person. To all of those people, I ask, what would you have done? Would you have just turned the other cheek when they tossed your newborn baby into a blizzard? Would you have forgiven them when they tried to steal your child away from you by using a corrupt legal system? Would you have shown any mercy to people who showed you absolutely none? I did not think so. There is a huge difference between revenge and justice. Revenge is about hurting someone simply because they hurt you. Justice is about making sure that they can never hurt anyone else ever again. What I did, that was justice. The Sterling family did not just abuse me. They had a long-established pattern. After everything went public, 7 other women came forward with their own stories about the Sterling family. These were women Michael had dated before me, women who had worked at Sterling Industries, women who had been mistreated and then silenced. Every single one of them thanked me for having the courage to expose what they had suffered through. That is when I knew for certain that I had made the right decision. I started the Harrington Foundation for Abuse Survivors with an initial $50 million in funding. We provide legal help, therapy, safe places to live, and job training for people who are escaping abusive situations. In just 6 months, we have helped over 2,000 people. Grace is going to grow up knowing that when someone tries to make you feel small, you have 2 choices. You can either believe them, or you can prove them wrong. I chose to prove them wrong. 1 year after that meeting in the boardroom, on April 12th, I held a press conference. The room was packed with reporters, and cameras were everywhere. 1 year ago today, I sat in a boardroom with the people who had abused me for 3 years, the people who threw me and my infant daughter into a blizzard, and the people who tried to steal my child from me through a corrupt legal system. Today, I stand before you as the Chief Executive Officer of a thriving company, as a mother to a happy and healthy daughter, and as someone who refused to let cruelty define her life. I am often asked if I have any regrets about what I did, if the revenge was truly worth it. And I want to be perfectly clear. What I did was not about revenge. It was about accountability. The Sterling family did not lose everything because I was being vindictive. They lost everything because they broke the law. Jonathan Sterling embezzled money from his own employees' pension fund. Victoria Sterling evaded paying millions of dollars in taxes. Michael Sterling committed financial fraud. Madison Sterling assaulted me and then broadcast it live to 500,000 people. I did not destroy them. They destroyed themselves. I just made sure that everyone was watching when they did it. To anyone out there who feels like they are in their own snow, who is in their own moment of complete and total despair, I want you to hear this. You are not garbage. You are not a nobody. You are not whatever cruel name someone called you when they were trying to break your spirit. You are powerful, you are worthy, and you are enough. Get back up on your feet, dust yourself off, and show them exactly who you really are. The room erupted with applause. After the press conference ended, I went home to my penthouse. Grace was there with her nanny, playing with some blocks. The moment she saw me, she smiled and reached her little arms up to me. I picked her up and held her close, breathing in that wonderful, sweet baby smell. You know what, baby girl? I whispered to her. Your mommy was almost broken, but she got back up. And one day, when you are old enough to understand, I will tell you this entire story. I will tell you that no matter what anyone ever says to you, you are the one who gets to decide who you are. Not them, you. Grace giggled and grabbed a handful of my hair. I laughed. For the first time in years, the sound was genuine and completely free. Rebecca came over to visit that evening. We sat together on my balcony, looking out at the incredible Manhattan skyline, drinking wine. Do you ever think about that night? She asked. In the snow? Every day, I admitted, but probably not in the way you imagine. I no longer think about it with any pain. I see it as the moment that changed everything, the second I stopped being a victim and became a survivor. You are incredible. You know that. I simply shook my head. I am not special. I am just a woman who refused to be kept down. That is precisely what makes you special. We sat together in a comfortable quiet, watching the city lights twinkle. What is next for you? Rebecca asked. I considered it for a moment. Honestly, I am not sure. Continuing to grow the company, helping people through the foundation, and raising Grace to be strong and kind. Perhaps that is enough. It is more than enough. You have already changed the world for so many people. That night, long after Rebecca left, I stood inside Grace's nursery, just watching her sleep. She seemed so peaceful, so completely innocent and perfect. My mind went to my mother, Catherine, and how she ran away from the control of her own father, determined to make her own way. I remembered how she worked 3 jobs to raise me, and how she was always too proud to ask for help, even when she was struggling. I then thought about my grandfather, William, and how he had to watch me suffer for 2 years, wanting to intervene, but constrained by lawyers and strategy. I knew how much he hated seeing someone he loved be mistreated. Both of them were ultimately destroyed by their pride, by their inability to cross the divide between their love and their stubbornness. I would not make the same mistake. I promise you, I whispered to a sleeping Grace, you will grow up always knowing you are loved. You will grow up knowing that asking for help is not a weakness, it is a strength. You will grow up understanding that you never have to tolerate cruelty from anyone, regardless of who they are. And if anyone ever tries to make you feel small, you will remember that your mother was thrown out into the snow and became a queen. Grace shifted in her sleep, her small hand curling up into a little fist. I smiled and gently kissed her forehead. Tomorrow, I had a meeting with the board. Next week, we were launching a new division of Harrington Global that would focus on ethical business practices and the welfare of our employees. Next month, the foundation was opening 3 new shelters. But tonight, I was just Emma, simply a mother, watching her daughter sleep, just a woman who had survived hell and come out on the other side even stronger. And that was more than enough. 5 years later. Today, Grace is starting kindergarten. She is wearing a purple dress that she picked out all by herself, her dark hair and pigtails that bounce with her excitement. Mommy, do you think the other kids are going to like me? She asked while I drove her to school. Baby, they are going to love you. Just be who you are, because that is always enough. Like you always say. Exactly like I always say. I watched her run into the school, completely fearless and bright, and my heart swelled with pride. Harrington Global is currently valued at $4.1 billion. We have branched out into renewable energy, ethical manufacturing, and affordable housing. With every single decision I make, I think about the kind of world that I want Grace to grow up in. The Harrington Foundation has now helped over 15,000 people to escape abusive situations. We have funded 3 documentary series about domestic violence. We have lobbied for much stronger protections for survivors of abuse in family court. The Sterling family is now just a distant memory. Jonathan was let out of prison last month after he served his entire sentence. He is 67 years old and works as a sales associate in a hardware store. I heard a rumor that he applied for a job at Harrington Global. The application was denied. Victoria is 73, still under house arrest, and still working in retail. She will be paying back her debt to the IRS for the rest of her days. Madison is 42 now, although she would hate that I mentioned it. She works the night shifts at a 24-hour diner. She has no social media presence, no followers, and no fame, only an ordinary life, which for her is the worst fate imaginable. Michael was released 2 months ago after he served 5 years of his 7-year sentence. He attempted to contact me one time, asking if he could see Grace. I had my lawyer serve him a cease and desist order. He signed away all of his parental rights. He is entitled to nothing. I heard he is working as a warehouse manager somewhere in New Jersey. He is engaged to someone new. For her sake, I hope that he has learned something, but I seriously doubt it. Alexis is still behind bars, with 7 more years to serve. As for me, I am engaged. His name is David Collins. He is a civil rights attorney. We met one another at a fundraiser for the foundation. He knows my entire story. He loves me all the same. More importantly, he loves Grace as if she were his own flesh and blood. When I told him all about the Sterling family, about everything that took place, he said, "You know what I see when I look at you? Not a victim, not even a survivor. I see a woman who refused to let cruelty define her. I see strength." That was the moment I knew I could trust him with my heart. We are getting married next spring. It will be a small ceremony with just family and our close friends. Grace is going to be the flower girl. She has already planned her entire outfit. Sometimes, late in the evening, I still have dreams about the snow, about the intense cold, about Grace's cries growing weaker, about being sure that we were going to die. But I do not wake up screaming anymore. I wake up, go into Grace's room, watch her sleep for a little while, and remember that we made it. We did more than just survive. We thrived. Last week, a young woman came into my office. She had gotten in touch with us through the foundation. She had been abused by her husband's family and thrown out with nothing, in the exact same way I had been. "I saw your story," she told me, crying. "I saw what you were able to do, and I thought if she could do it, then maybe I can too." I held her hand. "You absolutely can, and you will not have to do it by yourself." We got her settled into one of our shelters and connected her with a lawyer. We set her up with therapy and helped her file a police report. 2 months later, she sent me a picture. It was her and her 2 kids, smiling in their new apartment. The caption said, "We are free. Thank you for showing me that it was possible." That is why I did it. It was not for revenge. It was for that exact moment. It was for every woman who needed to see that you can be thrown out in the snow and still rise up to be a queen. Today is April 12th, the anniversary of the confrontation in the boardroom. Every year, on this day, I do something meaningful. This year, I am speaking at a TEDx event about trauma, resilience, and justice. I am standing on a stage, looking out at 5,000 people. "When they threw me in that snow," I began, "I was convinced I was dying. I was convinced I was a nobody. I was convinced that was what I deserved. I was wrong about every single thing. Pain does not break everyone. Sometimes, if you are strong enough, if you refuse to give up, pain will forge you into something more powerful than you ever imagined you could be. I am not special. I am not superhuman. I am just a woman who refused to stay down. To anyone out there in your own personal blizzard, in your own moment of despair, this is not your ending. This is your beginning. Get up. Dust the snow off and show the world precisely who you are. Because garbage does not build empires. Garbage does not change lives. Garbage does not inspire thousands of people to discover their own strength. You are not garbage. You are not a nobody. You are powerful beyond all measure. And one day you will look back at this moment and realize this was when you became unbreakable. The standing ovation goes on for 3 minutes. Afterward, hundreds of people line up to talk to me, to share their own stories, and to thank me, to tell me that they are getting up too. That night, I am at home with Grace and David. We are making dinner together, something simple, just pasta, which is Grace's favorite. "Mommy, why do people always want to talk to you?" Grace asked, stirring the sauce very carefully, because Mommy's story helps them to understand something very important. What is that? That no matter what happens to you, you are the one who gets to decide what it means. You get to decide who you will become. Like how you became a queen? I laughed. Something like that, baby. David kisses my temple, the queen who rose from the snow. I like that, I say. After dinner, once Grace is asleep, David and I sit out on the balcony, just like Rebecca and I did all those years ago. Do you ever regret it? He asked. The public nature of it all? The live stream? The media circus? I think about it for a second. Honestly, no, because it was never just about me. It was about every single person who has ever been told they are nothing. Every person who has been thrown away as if they were garbage. I wanted them to see that you can come back from something like that. You can do more than just survive. You can thrive. You have changed so many lives. They changed their own lives. I just showed them that it was possible. We sit in a comfortable silence, holding hands, watching the city. I think about the Emma from 5 years ago, broken, bleeding, and convinced that she was dying in the snow. If I could go back and talk to her, I would say, hold on just a little bit longer. Help is coming. In 5 years from now, you will be happy, truly, genuinely happy. Grace will be healthy. You will be in love. You will have helped thousands of people. The Sterling family will be nothing more than a bad memory. The snow does not last forever. Spring always comes. My phone buzzes. It is an email from the foundation. Another woman is asking for help. Another person ready to escape. Her own blizzard. I respond immediately, connecting her with our resources, letting her know that she is not alone, because that is what this was all about. Not revenge, not even really justice. It was about making sure that no one else has to lie in the snow, bleeding and broken, believing they are a nobody. It was about showing the world that you can be thrown away like garbage and still become a queen. And if my story, my pain, my journey can help even one more person find the strength to stand up and fight back. Every hardship was absolutely worth it in the end. Looking out at the Manhattan skyline, my eyes land on the Harrington Global Building, a tower that carries my grandfather's legacy and watches over the city that is now my own. I picture William observing me from the great beyond, and I truly hope he is pleased. I reflect on my mother, Catherine, who showed me that the most courageous act is often to leave behind what is causing you pain. I think of little Grace, asleep and secure in her room, enveloped by love, so she will never have to doubt her own value. Finally, my thoughts turn to me, Emma Catherine Morgan Harrington. I was once an invisible girl who grew into a woman who had it all. They cast me out into the snow with absolutely nothing. They were clueless that I was the heir to a billion-dollar empire. They never imagined I would live through it. They never guessed I would come back stronger. But their greatest oversight was not knowing that when you try to shatter someone, you can accidentally make them invincible. I refuse to be seen as a victim. I am more than a person who simply survived. I am a woman who experienced profound brokenness and chose to rebuild herself. I am a mother who will ensure her daughter understands that her value is defined by no one but herself. I am a chief executive officer who created a business empire built on integrity and fairness. I am a benefactor who channels personal suffering into a mission to help others. I am the queen who emerged from the cold. So if you are listening to this, if you feel like you are trapped in your own personal winter, if you have been made to feel like you are insignificant, I want to tell you a truth. You are mistaken. You are important. You possess incredible strength. You are deserving of greatness, and your time to rise will come. Stand up. The snow will eventually melt. Your destiny is ready for you. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of your own strength, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear this message today. Leave a comment below telling me about a time when you refused to stay down. And if you want more stories like this, stories that inspire and empower, please subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss another one. Times. Remember, you are not garbage. You are not a nobody. You are powerful beyond measure. This content has been carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our team to bring meaningful lessons and inspiration to your life. Every story we share is crafted with purpose because we believe that the right words at the right time can change everything. Thank you for being part of this journey with us.